All right, gentlemen, we're going to start in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Coach Scott Fields with another edition of the Coach Scott Fields Show. And you talk about fun, you talk about entertaining. It just took us a few minutes to get everybody logged on, but now that we got logged on, we're going to have an outstanding time and bring some entertainment and some fun stories that our society so needs right now because we're missing that entertainment factor. So we're going to play some music. We're going to let some people join on live with us, and then we're going to kick it off and really have some fun. Here we go. Now, see, if you guys were in uniform, you'd all be doing your little dance coming out on your motorcycles, skateboards. Yeah.
I wasn't really a dancer. I couldn't dance.
Oh, this is going to be fun. All right, it is Thursday afternoon, and it's another edition of the Coach Scott Fields Show. This is going to be a lot of fun, so please send your comments, ask your questions, hit your emojis. Let's share the content, and let's have an outstanding time with these men who sacrificed a lot of time, sacrificed their bodies, and brought a lot of entertainment for a lot of people. So I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves, but hey, like and follow the Coach Scott Fields Show, and also subscribe for free on our YouTube channel, the Coach Scott Fields Show. Let's have some fun with our professional mascots. So we'll start in the feel like the Brady Bunch. Let's start up in the upper left-hand corner. Introduce yourself, who you were the mascot for, and how you got into it. Go ahead.
Who's in the upper left-hand corner?
I'm on a phone, so I can.
I think I'm where Marsha Brady was. No, wait. I'm actually in the spot where the dad was. That's where I'm at.
There you go. Go ahead and start off, John.
Oh, okay. I'm John Apsey. I was the original Utah Jazz Bear from, I don't even remember, 93 to 2018, I do believe. And then I just want to say that I think it's great that you keep saying we're going to have fun. And if everybody looks down on the picture, we have the power of fun right there. So now you know this is fun.
I just changed it.
Oh, you did. Go back to the power of fun.
All right, wait. All right, no.
Okay, Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
My name's Tim Dirk, and I'm the originator, and I was helpful with the Coyotes character starting for, I won't say how old I am, but when the players wore their uniforms, it used to have Roman numerals on the front.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Wes.
Wes Locker, 82 to 88.
Oh, we're losing him a little bit. Little technical difficulties there with Wes.
Because he's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, he's in the Everglades.
Like always.
There you go. All right. Dan, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, my name is Dan Mears. I must be the young guy in the group because I think I'm the only mascot here that's not retired. I'm still working, and but that's okay because awesome. I'm Casey Wolf, the mascot for the Chiefs, and we just won the Super Bowl this year. At least another year because I won 2 rings.
There you go. And you got Patrick Mahomes, so you got a lot of fun going on right there.
I think he's going to work out pretty well for us.
I think he's got a chance. Okay, Dave.
Well, my name is Dave Raymond. As my 15-year-old says, I'm the OG fanatic, and I'm not wearing pants.
There you go.
Oh man!
Oh, look, that's what you can do on Zoom, right? You can do that. You can look really great from the chest up.
There you go. I love it, Dave.
I like the fact that you added your name and now the power of fun.
Well, I'm just trying to accommodate.
Love it. Love it. All right, Z, go ahead. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Michael Zarillo was Hugo the Hornet, mascot in Charlotte, New Orleans, and Oklahoma City for the Hornets basketball team from 1990 to 2007.
Nice. You're out there hanging out with Michael Jordan. I'm sporting the brand right there.
I just got off the fishing boat, catch 23. We got a big marlin, so
442 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Wes, can you hear us okay, buddy?
Yeah, I'm just having audio problems, so if I get stuck, I'll plug myself back in.
So you were kind of like a mime right there. You haven't moved in about 30 seconds. So I want to make sure you still had a pulse and still were with us.
You're
He's
lost.
just really good at that.
Okay. Well, guys, let's talk about the role of your mascots. Let's talk about some of the fun experiences you've had, some of the more entertaining stories that you can remember as you were building up your character and working within your community. So I'm going to let you guys kind of ping pong back and forth and share your stories.
Take it away, John.
Me? No. Honestly, is like, and I know I said this before when I was talking with Tim and Dave, but like right now, like I'm the youngest out of it, not age wise, but I mean, like my career started after you guys and I learned from these guys, Scott. These guys are like my mentors. The thing that's even more funny is Mike Zerillo was my judge for the tryouts that I had here in Salt Lake City.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I found out later he didn't pick me.
Yes, I did.
That guy from ASU. Do you remember?
It was a long time ago. I've had a lot of injuries.
Exactly. No, I do. I really am. I mean, like I'm looking at these guys and it just makes me happy because I mean, these guys like Dave's saying is the power of fun. These guys are the best minds in the business, and what they did and what they created for people like me to be able to have a career and do this for as long as I did. And it's hard because, you know, when I first started, everybody knew these guys and everybody knew that we needed to pay tribute to these guys for what they did for us. The sad thing in my head right now are some of the newer guys coming in the league don't have that appreciation and the realization of what these men did. And I don't even know if there was any women in the league back then, but what these men did to catapult mascotting to the huge world that it is right now.
Wow. Yeah. Kudos. And I got to say, as a professional coach, thank you for bringing that entertainment and distraction when the teams aren't playing so well, because if it wasn't for you guys to keep the crowd focused on something else other than how bad we coaches were doing, we'd really be in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, I grew up with a football coach for my father as a father. And I was lucky enough to play for him. And all I wanted to do was to be a coach. And ironically enough, the guy who told me that my ability to connect with people verbally was natural and would really help me. And then a second later, he'd tell me to sit down and shut up. He was the one who said, listen, you don't want to be a coach. I've been at the same university for 50 years at the University of Delaware. And there's no way you're going to be able to replicate that without getting fired and moving your family. I said, let me help you get a job with the Phillies, because he knew the owners. Wow. So I always say, like Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, I was lucky I had access. Went to work for the Phillies for 2 summers, and then I thought, okay, they'll get in touch with me and say, look, when you graduate from college, we might have something for you. Because at that time, I'm like, there was no sports marketing degree then. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I don't have to be a teacher. I can go work for, my hometown team. So they called me the 3rd summer and said, hey, you can have your same job back, but we need you to stay for the games. Will you stay for the games? And, I'm as bright as anybody in this room. And I went, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then they said, we're going to pay you to stay for the games. I'm like, oh my God, what do you want me to do? And they said, go to New York and get fitted for the costume. What? And they said, David, just go to New York and get fitted for the costume, because they got a hold of Jim Henson, who put them in touch with people that used to be one of his designers to create, this Muppet, this green Muppet. And then halfway through the program, I realized they asked me, because I was the one that was dumb enough to say yes to go entertain the same fans that booed Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. So I appreciate what John said, but there was no roadmap for us. We were just, that's why I love the power of fun, because Bill Giles, my boss, and the brilliant mind, who was not afraid to fail, and said, just go out and have fun, because if you're not having fun, this isn't going to work. And, we're going to make some mistakes and we'll figure it out. And he gave me all of the rope to go just, do whatever I wanted to do. And we build it from there. So I appreciate John giving us credit, but I mean, Dan's got great, and Tim have the same great stories about leadership that really appreciated them, understood them, and in Dan's case, and Tim's too, still support the character brand that they've developed there. So we were lucky. The three of us, I think, were probably the luckiest with enlightened leadership who understood how valuable this could be and what it became. And then once it became valuable, they didn't try to get rid of the people that were making money. They actually said, let's sit down and we'll compensate you well. And, we want to lock you up for a long time. And, Mr. Hunt has done that with his family. And I know Tim's ownership has been incredibly supportive of him and his creativity. So I think we're a product of some great leadership.
But it's funny, Dave, that you mentioned we're a little bit of product of our own stupidity in the fact that we started at first, because Coach Kai was like the Wild Wild West in the beginning. And I remember auditioning with the Spurs and putting the ball between my legs and showing them my shooting ability and showing them all these. And then I thought in my head, it was Bob Bass was the general manager of the Spurs at the time. And I remember thinking, there is nothing I can do with the basketball that Bob Bass hasn't already seen from the greatest athletes in the world. And here I am trying out for a mascot. But one of my deals was I could stand on the free throw, take the ball and slam it into my head as hard as I could. And I could make a free throw. One out of every 5 or 6. No. So here I was at Trinity University, this college, in front of Bob Bass, slamming a ball against my head, trying to make a free throw. And that's what got me the job, I think. It wasn't because I was adept at ball handling. He was just thinking, there's no one that stupid that practices that over and over. We got to hire this guy.
Oh, wow. And matter of fact, I see Ken just joined on with us. So we got to welcome Kim. Ken's out there in the outdoors. He's also a professional mascot. So Ken, welcome aboard, buddy. Glad you could join us, man. Oh, he's got his mic muted.
Mike.
There we go.
There he is.
There we go. Hey, sorry. I'm going from one meeting to the next. I'm going to teach kickboxing right now. I'm trying to feed my face.
Well, we heard part of that. Ken, I'm glad you're with us no matter how long you can be with us, buddy. Appreciate the stuff that you're doing.
Wait, what? Wow.
I don't know what you're eating, but it looks pretty good.
Oh, man. Granola bar, man. That's what I live on now.
There you go. There you go. The life of a mascot right there.
Geez, one thing to the next.
Atta baby. Well, appreciate you jumping on with us real quick. You're obviously juggling a lot of things. I know we're keeping it kind of quiet who you are and what you do, but we got a great house here with us tonight, man.
Awesome. Glad to be on here.
So
I'm gonna change my shirt real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He's actually in the middle of recess. That's what he's doing.
There you go. Well, Wes kind of shares some stories while he's changing his shirt and kind of talk about how you got started and kind of how you built your character.
I started off, I did major in criminology at Old Dominion University. And right after that, I just got hooked up. I heard about a radio station having a mascot, went through a few auditions, and they covered the Old Dominion men's and women's basketball in Norfolk, Virginia. So did that 4 years, and then happened to meet that other phonetic or Philly fanatic 38 years ago.
38 years.
Hampton, Virginia.
Yeah.
At a minor league baseball.
Hampton, yep. Minor league affiliate of the Phillies.
And
that's awesome.
Originally, I came up for a Sixers audition, and they were going to pay me $45 a game. starting in January. So we're like, you know what? If you're making one for another team, let me know. And they were making one for the Nets. So I have to give David a little bit of credit, especially after meeting him and attending his birthday parties and things like that. I think one of the, we all, especially after we're done an appearance and after an hour later and you're hot and sweaty and everybody gets that old question, how did you get into something like that? And my answer, and I told David this the first time years ago, and he didn't want to use it, but you get in from behind the zips and snaps up the back. And David goes, I'll never use that line. An hour later, we're in the store. They saw the Fanatic van, and he goes, which one are you, the Fanatic? He pointed. He goes, how'd you get into something like that? Then he used my line. So that's
it ever since.
I love it. But I've enjoyed it, obviously, like everybody else. And I think and we always had, obviously, everybody's had routines and doing things off of current events. And we've done things that weren't on camera in hospitals and special charities and things like that. I had an all-time, I tell us a lot, my all-time story was with, in New Jersey, at a hospital with the Make-A-Wish kid. Who was a big fan. He watched the games on TV. He was only like 8 or 9 years old. And you go into the hospital room. Of course, he's got the growth chart and the shirts and the posters and the lunch bags and dolls. And he walked up and down the halls with us, and we visited other kids. And about a week later, I get a call from the state patrol officer who set this up that he wanted to tell me that the kid did pass away. And he said, I got to tell you this. He goes, we went to the funeral with the eulogy, and the whole thing was about the character and you, and they took everything off his wall and put it in the casket.
Wow.
And that's
wow.
But other being, that's just stuff that's off the record in books, and I think we've all had stories like that too, sort of.
Well, it shows the impact and how you can positively affect lives in the community and what that impact is to that community that I don't think you guys get enough credit or enough recognition for. So I personally want to thank you on behalf of thousands of coaches, thousands of fans, thousands of community people, because you do have such a servant heart to be out there doing the things that you guys do. So I thank you guys all for that.
John, you've hit it on the head before when you said a lot of people ask you questions about games and what you did at games, but they really do miss, Coach Scott, that it's the appearances between games where you really build a relationship with the city and with the team and with the other mascots.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Great stuff. Can you guys share some of your personal intimate stories of maybe of a relationship of someone that you met that was meaningful to you, where you've gone to the hospitals or gone to the nursing homes or gone out into the community or fundraisers? Kind of share some of those stories, because we need that uplifting stuff right now.
I mean, if it's okay, really quick, I think we should have Zerillo's roof ask. I mean, his roof would be great.
He's at the phone. Right. There he is. There he is. The phone fell down.
Maybe passed out. By the way, we didn't mention this, that Michael's the only one in this whole group that looked amazing in tights.
That is true.
That's quite an honor.
He got that job because nobody else wanted to wear those tights. And he said, I'll wear them. And they bring him in here.
Wes looks pretty good in tights too.
Hey, I'm really sorry, but Dan, go ahead. I know you were starting to talk. It's just I thought it was funny that we're sitting here and we're looking at the roof of Mike's car.
I had to move the car and I couldn't hold the phone up while I moved it.
That's okay.
Let's not get anybody killed.
Yeah.
Especially Ken. Ken's got to be safe. He's driving right now, so safety first.
I was going to tack off of what Tim said. I think one of the best things about this job is the relationships you build, not only with the athletes and the front office staff, but just with the fans and with the people you meet. And I once read this, and some of these guys have probably heard me say this before, but I read one time that if you ask a man his occupation, you find out how he pays his bills. But if you ask a man his preoccupation, then you'll find out the passion of his life. Well, our occupation's mascot. You know, we pay our bills running around in a costume acting like idiots. It's what we do. But I think I probably speak for all these guys, but you know, my preoccupation, what I am truly passionate about in life, for me personally, is simply three things. Number one's my faith. Number two is my family. And then number three is using my life to make a positive impact in this world that I live in. And we just happen to have the opportunity to use costumes to make a positive influence or just have a positive impact in the communities that we're all involved with. And that's what I appreciate about these guys. I mean, they're nuts, they're crazy, but down deep inside, I know that they've got hearts of gold and they're out there wanting to make an impact in their world. And that's what I love about being involved with it.
Love hearing that, Dan, and thank you for sharing, because I think that's an important piece of what you guys do and who you are and the purpose that you guys have. So well said. Well said.
And I would dovetail off of that. Dan is a great communicator, and he says those so well. For me, that and I had a little bit of frustration boil over with Major League Baseball making a statement about mascots in baseball wouldn't be a part of it. And the problem with what we do is because we are slapstick, silly humor, and fun in general has not valued. But if you speak to it from a business standpoint, if you're a marketing expert or you're trying to get your brand to be heard and remembered above the noise, if you had a tool that could immediately go out and connect on a deep emotional level to your customers, your fans, your partners, your employees, you would invest in it, right? And of course, the answer is yes. And if you had, not only would it make deep emotional connections, it would create moments that people will, in this day and age, take a share, a photo, and spread it on social media. In my day, take a photograph and put it in an album and show it for the rest of their lives and say, this was one of the most pivotal moments in my son's, daughter's graduation, wedding, bar mitzvah, whatever. And the answer would be, yes. What is that? What do I do? Well, get a character brand, create a mascot for your brand, because that's what, on the highest level, the problem that I've had with our industry, and I know we have a couple of bugaboos that bother us, is that we have executives, we've got people who are in charge, who, when you ask, what are you doing to the character brands? You go, well, we send them over there and they work with the kids while we do the important stuff over here. Oh. And it is something that's echoed that and it's not that they're not bright people. They're missing the point in part because, we have the clown nose on and we're running around, and that has been part of my mission, is to promote the fact that fun is not what you do on a vacation only. It's not what you do when you take a break. It's what you do when you need to fight the type of struggles we're going through with the pandemic and with the social injustice. A fun environment will allow people to be safe to communicate and be able to get empathy for one another. Fun does that. So, that has been my frustration, is that you go over there and play with the kids while we do the important business over here. It's just a lack of understanding. And that's what I'm hoping to change, is to get people to see that what all of we have done has we've made an impact, both business and emotionally, with those people that love the sport or that love the team or love the logo.
Yeah, well said, Dave. I appreciate that. How hard was it for you guys when you're in costume? Because for the most part, you're probably not able to speak or verbally communicate with the fans, because I mean, that's such a no-no. But how hard is that to have those connections and still reach out, but yet still be loved without the verbal communication, because you have to be more animated to get that attention or be noticed? So kind of speak on that a little bit, because that's got to be challenging.
Can I jump in here? Can I jump in here on this one?
Yeah, Ken.
Yeah, I've only got a short time, but I'd love to chime in right here. And I hope this bad spot doesn't cut off my phone here. But anyways,
Oh, We're losing you, kid. Right when you had something important, you
knew he had something good. I know, Ken. That was something.
That's because mascots don't talk, so they laid him off.
My dad told me something that I'll never forget. It was one of the most important things he said to me. My dad said,
I actually have always. Okay, where'd I get cut off?
At the very beginning, you were getting ready to come with the thunder, and we lost you.
You were getting real. You were getting real, and it cut out.
It's the one spot on the way to my gym that, it figures. So anyways, hey, I've always thought that I do my best conversing non-verbally. I make the best connections non-verbally. And, in and out of costume, I'm very expressive. But I'll tell you what, in costume, I've been able to make some real work. I've had full-on half-hour conversations with people without ever saying a word. I was in a hospital one time, just talking non-verbally to a lady who was holding on to her daughter, who was holding on to her life, and she was in a coma. And she kept saying, "Hey, this character, I won't say who it is. He's here. He's he's holding your hand." And
oh, and we were just getting it there too. We lost you, kid. Daggone
We'll
it.
say
David,
Ken
you know
does his
sign
best.
language.
Ken does his best interviews non-verbally.
Oh,
Zerillo. I want to hear Zerillo. I haven't heard Mike talk yet.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well,
everything. Sure enough,
Ken's still go. Ken's still trying.
Ken's still talking.
I say we
He's
mute.
got a COVID mask on.
Yeah, right. He's in the canyon now.
No, there he's back.
Go ahead, Z.
Well, just communicating non-verbally was a stretch for me. Starting out, my whole life was gymnastics, so I was taught to ignore the crowd and just be in your own bubble. I didn't know that there was beats to clap to music to. That told me go out and clap, and I just start clapping like an idiot. But learning that and learning how to communicate, it was one of the most powerful things, that you can get so many emotions across by a shrug of the shoulders or just a nod of a head or just a quick look. And I think some of the guys in here, they had that down way better than I did. Sometimes the character helps a little bit, but the costume, but Tim, for not having any real eyes, you could tell every single thing that he was feeling or thinking, and he was great at it. But it was one of the things that I really like to look back on when you see videos of what you were doing, and you can know exactly what was going through your head. And I think people could understand that and get to know you, the season ticket holders and the people that would see you over and over. That's why whenever if somebody else had to get in the costume, or it wasn't you or something, which it wasn't very many times for me, but everybody would know right away. Not only the body type, but just your body language and how you communicate to everybody. And I got to know some of my people that helped me in the field, that I could just, give a shake of the head and they knew exactly what was going on. And you think you have to be super over exaggerated, but when you're up close to people and they can see your little motions, just like you do in regular life, 90% of it is body language, how you're communicating. And then there's the words. So we just took the words out and over exaggerated the body language a little bit. So
yeah, it's a skill set, and you guys are the best of the best at it. And I can kind of speak on what I'm observing here at Utah, because John was in that position for so many years. And now that there's new person trying to fill those footsteps or those hairy feet, it's just not quite the same. It's just not quite the same.
When did that happen, John? What happened
there? I'll tell you later.
Yeah, okay.
He's missed. He's definitely missed. He's missed.
Love you. Thank you very much. But I still remember back when the first time I saw it, Tim would stop the crowd from clapping, And then you would give that just kind of, intent or like kind of build this moment or this energy. And then you'd slowly start clapping again. And I brought it up to our bosses. And it's funny how when I brought it up, they were like, "Oh, hell, no way! You're not bringing the crowd down and just to bring them back up. They won't get back
That's
up."
a great idea.
And I always felt that with the crowd, I was playing with them, not directing them to do what I wanted. We were playing together. And so we have over 90 season ticket holder accounts of over 40 years with the Spurs. So we actually grew up together. So, John, you just learn with that many years to just play together every game. And the NBA mandated a policy that said they had to say 2 minutes at the end of the first quarter, at the end of the third quarter, or whatever. So I just got a sign that said, "How long do you cook an egg?" And I would wait for the clock to go to 2:04, and I'd hold up that sign and have about 10,000 people say, "How long does it take to cook an egg?" And our announcer would begrudgingly say, 2 minutes. And then it was, "How long is Britney Spears' career?" And we were just all playing together for years and years. So you end up being friends.
Yeah.
Was Texas even in the United States at that point?
Just a few years before the Alamo went under.
Yeah.
Dude, I just think it was always fun because, we had this conference where everybody would come together. And I just think I really enjoyed how while you were performing throughout the year, I always caught myself kind of slowly getting into a little bit of a rut. You know what I mean? Where your creativity went like this. And then I'd come in and I'd be talking to a Tim and a Dave and all these, Mike and Wes. And I'd come out of there with just this amazing, like, oh my hell, like this is going to be such a great year. Because it's so fun that we were all able to be successful with what we did, thinking completely different. And I love that there's not one right way to mascot. I mean, if you look at what everybody did and how they did it, and they all succeeded amazingly at it.
Wow.
And each city was different. One would boost, one would, I would have the crowd cheering and someone at the conference would ask me, how do you pipe in that noise? And I'd be like, what? No, that's actually how supportive these people are. And then other mascots would get up there. They'd do a front flip dunk dressed as Santa Claus, and they would get booed.
We're not talking about you, Mike.
It's funny when you mention that rut, John. It just sucks when it's game 4 of the whole season and you're already in the rut.
I've been there too. And they're doing that. Oh, the hell.
Do you guys think it was more of a challenge being in like a small market city compared to a large market city? And did that change the way you would work or the way that you would try to interact with your communities and with your fans?
I think
nobody here, I think, has switched cities much except for me going from here to New Orleans to Oklahoma City. All are pretty similar in size, but there is a different flavor to each city. But I don't think so. I think funny's funny. People are people. And that's why we started getting together like this. Cause if it's going to work in Indiana with some tweaks, it's probably going to work in Miami. It's probably going to work in Seattle, when they had a team. But I think people being people is more common than the city itself.
I think I had a number of challenges where I went as the fanatic to an opposing stadium. So when we were in Houston for the 1980 National League Championship Series, which is to this day considered one of the greatest series ever played, and I found those to be really invigorating because you knew that you were going to get booed, and you started to get the feel of what it was like to get booed. But my favorite one was when the Chicken had some struggles with San Diego, so he left and they were trying to move away from him. So they hired a handful of acts to come in. And so the players always used to tell me that San Diego was a military base with a beach. So that it was a tough crowd. They dealt with R-rated and above material. And I was always the guy that was decided by Bill Giles to be G-rated. So I get out there and I'm doing my thing. And the entire upper rim was all military people. And the Chicken was famous for going up there and having them pass him up from there all the way to the top of the stadium. So I started hearing this sound going on. There was some boos, and I was doing a couple of things that were working. But then all of a sudden, this chant, and I finally heard it was the whole military rim going, "We want the chicken. We want the chicken." Wow. So I'm looking at them, and now I'm getting pissed. So we all can relate to. I'm thinking Bill Giles, G-rated, and I went like this. I went. And they started to cheer because I was giving them, but then waving like, and then they started to cheer and they started saying, "We want the Fanatic." And I climbed all the way up there and they passed me all the way up to the top of the stadium. And I'm like, yeah, that was the first time that I had been to a opposing stadium where they gave in to me, but that's because it was a military base with a beach. They didn't care about the Padres, they just were drinking and having a blast. So
oh, that's a good story. Great story. Do you guys have any stories of interactions with fans where fans were really upset with something that was going on, or maybe there was, say, an opposing team fan in your facility, and then they gave you a hard time? Anybody?
Everybody right now is going, "Can I say that story?" Anybody?
Come on, John, start us off.
I don't want to keep talking. I'm sure you guys start to talk. Oh, you guys have been in costume too long. Start talking.
I remember there was one time.
You don't have to say the fan or the city that they were representing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I never really had that much problem. My character, because of how it looked and it was my real eyes, had a real aggressive look, and not many people messed with me. But I do remember I was walking up on the upper part of the upper bowl, right on the edge. And I used to tightrope walk up there. And it's one of those moments where I was walking and I'm focused on my steps so I don't tip over. And I saw something like motion coming out of the left part of my eye, or my peripheral. And it was right where the stairs came down to get to these seats. And I just happened to look as I see this drunk fan coming to shove me off the upper bowl. Ooh. And I remember just being, one of those moments where I just spun and I was able to fall and catch the railing here and hang. And I still remember like freaking out, security coming down. I crawl over, and you all know that sometimes you come out of character. I just remember like plowing my way through people so I could get to this guy out in the upper bowl and out in the hallway. And I was like, because what do people think? I mean, you know what I mean? When things like that happen, you're always like, what are you thinking? Not only would you have hurt me, which, I'm sure he didn't care, but it was more about the fans below. I'd have killed somebody.
Yeah.
You would have 250 pounds falling on somebody's head. It
was a compliment, John. You had them believing you were a cartoon character. And they can fall and regenerate. They can blow up and come back together.
It's like player one, and I got 2 lives left.
like the Coyote and the Roadrunner. Come on.
There you go.
John, don't you have a repelling story too, where you were helping guest mascots for your birthday and it ended up using the wrong end of a rope?
Yeah, I've had a lot of those, Tim. But all it does is it just reinforces that I'm an idiot.
Well, John he's being modest, but what he did, Coach, is that he had a different mascot's visit, and we were all going to rappel the first time out of the game to introduce ourselves. John gave up his helper, his normal guy, his knot tire for the rope, to the other mascots graciously, and did everything himself. And started to rappel down and noticed he was on the wrong end of the rope. He was on the rope that doesn't drop to the floor. And he had about 3 more feet, and then he would have just plummeted. But he caught it in time. And when he told me the story, he said he got up on the catwalk and just grabbed it and was breathing heavily and thanking his lucky stars.
Wow.
I got a good guardian angel. Very
Dan
good
is
guardian
having
angel.
flashbacks right now.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Yeah.
you know a story that
Post-traumatic syndrome.
You have to give kudos to this guy. Okay, so this was way back in the day when they used to have the dunk competition for the mascots. And now Zerillo, back in the day, like probably one of the worst injuries a mascot's ever had, but he still came back. And it took him a year, right, to recover from that? Tell him how that happened.
Well, that wasn't at the dunk contest. That was at a playoff game against the Bulls in '95, and we used a air-pressured catapult instead of a trampoline. Ooh. And performed it from the free throw line and then the 3-point line in the first game. And then the stunt company that we had hired, it's like, you are doing great. I think we can turn this up a little notch, and you can go out even further. So they had it at 1,300 pounds of pressure per square inch, and I was about 2 steps from half court. It was in practice, and launched myself, and it just tore all the ligaments in my lower leg and bones off my heel, and I ended up going about 20 feet, landing on a mat, and ambulance came, went to the hospital, and I came back. They just put a cast on it, didn't know that the Achilles was torn, but knew that there was bones pulled off the heel. And I'm in the locker room, got my leg up. I don't know what's going on, what's going to happen. And I get a knock on my door, and our owner was, he's from North Carolina, and he comes in and he says, Michael, it's just it's not the same without you out there. Can you get out there and do something? So I hadn't had any pain medicine, put my tights on over the cast, came out, crutches the whole game. And everyone was expecting it to be a skit where I throw the crutches down and start tumbling across the floor and everything. But it took 6 months before I could put my foot on the floor again. But eventually that was year 5, and I made it to 17 years, and I only missed 4 games in 17 years. So there's with a lot of injuries in there. So that's kind of
awesome.
What I'm known for, more of some of the dunks and then a lot of the injuries. So
something though,
I've got a question for John.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite videos is you on a sled coming down the stairs.
Yeah.
And I see you clip it right before you get out onto the court. And I'm like, surely that had to hurt. Was there an injury there at all? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. It was one of those moments where I was going down the stairs, and in my head, it was that split-second decision where I was like, you know what? I think I can push up, and I'm going to surf it down. And the second I pushed on the sled stopped, and I just tumbled over. And I remember my neck or my head hitting the stairs as my body came over. I saw a flash of light, and I don't remember anything until I landed on the floor. And then all of us have been there. You hurt yourself, and for some reason, there is that you got to go, 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 go. And if you watch in the video, you see me just I'm like paddling. It's really weird. And you can see my assistant. And then I get out there and I'm doing my thing. And I was just, you know how your eyes get all shaky just before you get, after you get knocked out. And I went off the court and I took my head off, and I still have the scar. I just sliced my head open. And so
I still listen, John, all these things you're saying, yet just like that, every time I did my forward roll, I did that forward roll. I put my elbows in between my knees, and I tucked my head, and I did that forward roll, and I get that flash of light, and then everything would go dark for a second, and they get the ambulance, and I would say, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay."
Wow.
I did none of that. None of that.
Good guardian angel. I'm telling you, there's a lot of times I should have bit the dust.
Wow.
John, didn't you have a story about something with bull urine too at one point?
But this isn't a story time with John hour.
Hey, this is classic.
You really want me to tell that one?
I love that one.
I came out of character pretty bad.
Yeah.
Doing a rodeo. And I was out on the dirt, and I had a CO2 fire extinguisher that I spray guys with, or people with all the time. And I just didn't realize that at the time, cowboys have image, and they don't like to be messed with. And there was a guy out there on the dirt, and he was doing something, and I sprayed him in the butt, and I just kept going. I've done it a gajillion times. And he didn't even really lead on that he was upset about it. But then I find out that he was, and things go on, and I didn't really think about it. So I was like, I just sprayed him in the butt. It couldn't have been that bad. So then they wanted me to get on the four-wheeler, and I was going to drive out on the dirt as they were setting up the arena for something else. And as I'm driving onto the dirt, I see him come around the corner, and he's got a bucket, and he throws it at me. And it hit me in the face, and I go driving across the arena, and I'm kind of laughing, and I'm like, oh, okay, he got me back. We're even. And then all of a sudden, because it went into my eye holes, and I could feel it come, and I was like, that ain't fire. And I remember I just freaked because it was gross. So I just freaked. I spin it around. I zoom back over to where this guy is, and he's on the other side of the fence, these bars. And I drive the four-wheeler up there, and I just crawl up the bars, and there's people probably 10 feet above me sitting there. And I came out of character, and I'm swearing at this guy, yelling. And I finally just dive off the bar, and I land on top of him, and I got his head in my arm. And I remember trying to knee him in the belly, but his legs were so tall, my knee couldn't get up there because I was too short. And then the most surreal moment. So then I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I look to my right and my left, and I mean, there's just people all around us. We're in the middle of the rodeo, and everybody comes over to break this fight up. But the two guys holding me is one is Rob Smits, and he was a world professional bullfighter guy, clown. And I have these two guys in clown makeup, so serious, yelling at me, trying to break us apart. So then as they're prying me apart and they're prying him apart, I scurry and I get up on the bars and I tightrope walk to where he is and then jump on him again. And then the cops had to come in, and it was ugly, you guys. It was my head went crazy. I just couldn't put it together. So,
wow.
It was, yep.
And you have video footage of it too.
I do. It was
classic.
It was fun. It was fun.
Oh, that's good stuff. Do you guys have any other stories of where you came out of character a little bit because someone was physical with you or hurt you or something like that had happened?
Well, John, I didn't come out of character, but once we started for the first time at a ref named Dick Bavetta. Just a great guy, real good friend of mine.
Oh yeah.
So I said, do me a favor at the timeout, just put your hands behind your back for me at the press table, and we'll take care of the rest. And so I had my assistant slide a Toys R Us boxing glove onto Dick's fist. No padding at all on the glove, just a piece of plastic. And I told Dick, during the timeout, I'm going to come up to you and mess with you a little bit in fun. I want you to hit me as hard as you can, because I knew I had all sorts of fur and padding. I could just throw myself one left or right. Did the skit, and then I saw Dick's face, and it looked like he was ready to just kill. And he gave me the straightest right jab instead of a roundhouse. Went right in the screen where the Coyote's eyes are, no padding. Broke my nose, broke his finger, and blood started spraying all over the court. And my assistant just walked by and just said, I'll get the trainer. And we stuffed tissue in our nose and used athletic tape for the rest of the game. And Dick got around the mascot world that Dick was mad and we got in a fight, and they called him Dick Boom Boom Bavetta.
Oh, that's great. I've had Derek Stafford and Joey Crawford as a guest on my show, and they came on and told great stories as well. So Tim, to hear you share that, I mean, it's a shame that you took the direct shot and ended up breaking your nose, but I'm sure it was entertaining for the crowd, but at your expense.
I now know I can take a punch. And it's a great
boom boom Bavetta. I love it.
You know what's interesting though, if you listen to what everybody's talking about, like with Mike and with Tim, and I know it's happened with me, and I know Dave and Wes and Dan, we go out there. I mean, and this is, I don't know, I just think it's funny that you have these players that are getting paid millions of dollars. And we had a player for us that didn't play a couple of games because he had turf toe, but you had a broken nose, you tape it up and you went back out. Mike, you blew your leg apart and your owner's like, hey, can you just come back out? The things that we did to ourselves, but because we loved our profession and that character so much that we were willing to go out injured and still try and perform and help the team.
Show must go on.
Yeah.
There you go. Hashtag warrior.
Wait, man, you hurt yourself rappelling, right?
Yes, I did. So I've had more than my share of injuries. It's funny, you think of some of them. One of my first injury I ever got, I separated my shoulder at an appearance. And I had another appearance about 2 days later. So I had my arm inside of a sling inside of my costume. So basically I had my two arms, but one of them was just dead. There was nothing in it. It was just flopping around. So anytime anybody would want to give me a high five, I'd have to come across my body to give a high five. So,
could not lift that arm.
Working it, but
wow.
Then my worst injury, of course, was I did a little little bungee jump and zip line that didn't work out very well. I fell about 70 feet, hit the seats in the upper deck of Arrowhead, and broke 7 ribs, collapsed a lung, shattered a tailbone, cracked my sacrum. Now I got these new titanium rods in my back, and so that's my worst.
$6 million man.
I was getting ready to say that. $6 million man sitting right here with us. Wow.
I'm in the hospital.
I'm the only one that the character's nose got broken and not mine. When I was in spring training with the Phillies, we were playing the Mets, and the Mets were always there were such great players that always had fun with me. And Hubie Brooks and we became friendly, and he would always be my foil, have a lot of fun. So and he would do stuff that would frighten me because I knew he was trying to take it too far. So they all came. I just got done doing about 25 minutes in the hot summer sun in Florida, and I was on my way to go take a break, and he just had told all of his players that when I walked by the dugout in mass down in spring training, so it must have been 60 players just came running out, and Hubie Brooks was the first one to jump on me, and I fell backwards and he landed on top of me. And when he did that, it actually broke the Fanatic's nose, because it was one of those tubes. It's like the noise maker that makes that. That's actually what the underpinnings of the Fanatic's nose was at the time. So he fell on me, and I could feel that break. He lands on me, and then all those guys jumped on top of me, and I started to get nervous and hyperventilate, and I was scared, and I started screaming out of character to Hubie, "Get off! Get off! Get off!" And he's like laughing, "Oh!" And I had my hands were pinned down by Hubie's legs, and I grabbed the inside of his thigh, and I went, and I could hear him go, "He's serious! He's serious! He's serious!" And he came into the clubhouse because he heard he broke my nose. Because I said my nose got broken. I meant the Fanatic. He came into the clubhouse to see if I was all right. And I said, "Get out of here, you idiot! You didn't break my nose. You broke the Fanatic's nose. Now that's much more valuable than my nose." And he goes, "Well, look what you did to me." And he pulls his shorts up, and there is this black and blue knuckle mark because I had just gave him a hickey on the inside of his thigh with my foot. And so he never fooled with the Fanatic again.
There you go. You flexed on him, baby. You flexed. How about Wes? Wes, did you have any encounters with fans that got a little crazy?
I was probably the only athlete out of this bunch. Never got hurt. Nothing. Maybe a foot stuck in the stands, but other than the letters, I did have one little lawsuit in Puerto Rico a few years back.
Can you elaborate on it, or can you not speak on it?
Yeah, no. She's still making money off the team. It was in 1994, and we'd been to Puerto Rico the year before, where you're shooting the water guns and throwing shoes and everything. So this lady's sitting on the front row, very attractive, and you pull people out to dance, and it's always not me, not me. Well, her purse was, which I didn't know at the time, was attached, across her chest and on the back of the chair. So it's almost, so when I pulled her to dance, the purse broke, but I didn't know she had a purse on her. So she landed, just on the floor, just by her seat. And I kind of slid her to center court. And I pretended to dance. She'd already walked back to her seat. And I pretended to dance like she was there, and the crowd cheered. And I went back over and gave a kiss on the cheek and all that. Turned out to be the wife of the Supreme Court judge.
You know how to pick them.
Yeah, went through a couple of lawsuits. The first one, it's like David and everybody's been sued here before, but I think, we were first, it's just like back then it was the Michael Jackson paying everybody off when he didn't do anything. It was like $200,000. We were going to settle for 50. But we ended up going to court, and there were 8 women on the jury, and she was awarded $10,000, and that was it. So a year later, I get back, and she resued again because her husband was on the Supreme Court sort over there and issued another trial. So I actually went back twice. It was after that, you kind of got labeled. You really couldn't go too far, and you wanted everybody, especially Pat Riley, wants you to plant people. That lasted about 3 games, but I did come back after all that was over, because the second trial, and I just like you guys know, you put somebody else in the suit, but we didn't do that. Everybody knew because they get the Miami Herald over in Puerto Rico as well. So when I came back, I ended up getting one of those big old plastic trash cans that had Miami Heat on it. And I put Bernie San Juan Relief Fund on the outside. Collected $210 in about 10 minutes.
There you go.
So management said, you get that thing out of here, and we gave it to charity. So she ended up, the wife still ended up suing us for the 3rd time for child mental anguish.
Wow.
That normally happens when the kid's maybe 2 or 3 years old. Her son was 18 at the game, and he's also laughing on tape as well. So it kind of got dismissed, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm known for.
Wow. Well, let's ask this. Let's go around the room. Let's talk about, since I know you guys are friends, and it was great to hear you guys come on and kind of see each other for a long time. Tell a story about maybe a favorite skit of one of your colleagues here, something that kind of stands out that you saw them do that you really liked or that you learned from.
I can go first just because I think Mike Zarillo is in this group, and he was with the Charlotte Hornets, and he's being modest. We were all dunking off the trampoline, but not nearly as well as Mike, because he's an accomplished gymnast. But one of his famous dunks, he would go off the trampoline, and then he wouldn't even dunk the ball. He would just smash right into the backboard. But he was the Charlotte Hornet, so he called it bug on a windshield. And he became famous for that. And then we all thought, okay, we're going to jump and smack, but it's not funny. We can't. Oh, he's got us. He's got scoreboard.
Yeah.
And he did it all over the world.
Great stuff, Tim. Attaboy.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorites was watching John put drywall stilts on, then climb a 15-foot ladder, then get a sign, and then drop into splits as he came off. And not all the best things were like stunts or skills like that, but it just shows you the way the man's mind works. That
what else can we do?
Just keep taking it to the next level. Take it
Raising
higher,
the bar.
higher.
Raise the bar.
You know what, though, is a lot of it was because, like I said before, is trying to keep up with these guys was tough. And I couldn't be funnier than Dan and Dave and Wes and Tim and as athletic as Mike. And I mean, it was just hard. And the only thing I could think of was, I'm going to do something completely different. And that's where the whole stunt thing came in, is because I couldn't compete with the pros. And it's just, so that was my only escape. And it was, how close to death can I gang myself before, so
pretty close.
Pretty close a couple times.
Yeah. Wow.
So I remember the first time I saw Wes work. I was sitting in the stands. I don't even know. I was down for your birthday party. It was like my second year. And you did the water on the cop skit. Did you remember that?
Yes.
And the whole time, and here I am, a mascot. We all know we set it up, but I was still so new. I really believed that. And in my head, I couldn't believe it. And even after the game, I was like, how did you get away with that? How did you not get arrested? And that was my favorite part of watching a mascot is you could always, there were two types. You could watch a skit and you can immediately go, that was fake. You could see the plant. My favorite was when you could watch a mascot perform or do a skit and you were like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You were able to pull it off so well. That's my favorite part is when you see like these guys right here, were able to go out, do an entertaining act, a skit, a stunt, a dunk, or whatever it is, but make it seem so real that you have to question it. Was it real? Was it not? And I love that part.
That's
not like
awesome.
Andy Kaufman,
There you go. I like it.
Well, David, he's got a tell, which I always thought was a very entertaining, and everybody still talks about it. David always had a dummy, which I borrowed a lot. By the way, we, back in the 80s, we switched off with routines and props and loaded up the van. You got two different seasons. You got two different audiences. So that time it was great, but he had a dummy made. He dressed it up, which we all did, and put different teams and players on there. But David, you got to tell him Tommy Lasorda.
But Tommy and I met in 1979 in Japan when the Fanatic was the mascot for the All-Star team that went and toured Japan, and he really loved the fact that if I would make fun of him, the fans would laugh. Then he would respond negatively to me, and it would be even a better response. So when we came back from that point forward, every time the Dodgers came in, I was constantly harassing him. And then he would just play along. The players loved it because he would yell my name. He'd go, David, I'll kick your, and he could make a death row inmate blush with the way he. So he was. So we had this it was fun thing going for years. And then I got the dummy, and Steve Sachs would get his jersey for me, and it was like Jack Nicholson on The Shining. He would come in my door and he goes, here's Tommy's jersey. If you ever tell him I gave it to you, I'm going to kill you. And because he was a full contact karate guy. So I was always getting the jersey. Well, over time, Tommy started getting sick of it. And then when he was doing the Slim Fast challenge with Oral Hershiser, he came into Philadelphia. It had been 2 weeks with no pasta, and he was in a lousy mood. And he had told the clubhouse guy not to bring an extra jersey. So Sachs was looking at me like, I don't have it. So the following day, I actually went to a store, paid $150 for a jersey, had Lasorda embroidered on it, and put it on the dummy. So when I came out like that, he was looking at the clubhouse manager. I thought he was going to go strangle the clubhouse manager. And then right in the middle of the routine, the fifth inning, he came running out, grabbed my four-wheeler, pulled it back and forth. And then when I let go of the four-wheeler, he looked like he was going to go back. And then he ran out and caught me, threw me to the ground. He was punching me, yelling at me, and he took the dummy and he hit me over the top of the head, and the chin strap came off, and my head went like this. Oh. And I just grabbed it really quick, and I crawled off to the photographer's booth to re-snap it. But he went absolutely nuts. And the next day in the paper, Stan Hochman, Hall of Fame writer, wrote a piece saying that we were both acting like children. And I never called media because, the Fanatic was always good news, right? So this is the first time I'd been criticized. I called him on the phone. They said, hey, wait a second, Stan, I'm the Fanatic, okay? And my job is to make everybody laugh and smile. He's the manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He comes out and beats up a Muppet. Who's not doing their job? And he hung up on me because he goes, his broadcasting crew or his writing crew went down the tubes because he's got a mascot complaining. So we hung up.
Oh my goodness, this is good stuff, guys. Share some other stories. I mean, I know we've been at this for a while, and I'm so grateful for your guys' time to share these stories. But John's got his hands up back there. So, John, give a story.
I actually want to ask a question to these guys because my favorite thing is like listening to Dave and when you talk about the old school guys that you interacted with, you know what I mean? The legends, because those days are gone. You know, we have a whole different league in football, baseball, basketball, whatever it is. Those type of like, you know, the Frank Ladens, all those guys, you know, Tommy Lasorda's. It's a whole different world. I would love to hear if you could all look back, who you interacted with. That was old school back then. That was that really influenced you, or you had a lot of fun with.
Good question.
I'll go on that one, and Dave, you probably know his last name because Philadelphia, they've had some great mascots go through there. But the old Philadelphia 76ers mascot, a character called Big Shot.
Yeah.
A guy named Joe, and I can't remember Joe's last name.
Joe Kempo.
Yeah. His character, I loved that character. He had the orange hair that went around, the bald on top, and then just the huge hips. And he could make a move. That's what I loved about watching him. And that's one of the guys, you know, being a fat character myself, I like watching other fat characters and watching Wes and Dave and, you know, some of the chubby characters. And I still remember seeing Wes when you brought out Miss Bernie for the first time. And that's when I'm like, wait a second, I can actually get myself a wife here out of this deal.
Bernie.
Take my second wolf outfit and put a wig on her and dress her up like I want to. And so, yeah, I just remember in Philadelphia, just a number of good mascots that were up there, the Fanatic and then Big Shot, who that character's since been retired. But
who Dan, though, was like somebody like a player or a coach?
A player or a coach?
Like an old school player or coach that you interacted with?
You know, we had an offensive lineman named Dave Zott. I don't know if you
know. Yeah.
Zott. I remember Zott.
Great guy. But he was always willing to, you know, he was always there to joke around with there's so many appearances, not at games, but off site, you know, at the hundreds of community events we do. And, you know, that's what I've got so many stories just from sporting events like these guys do in games. But, you know, some of the most rewarding appearances are the ones that we do outside of sports. You know, I've going back to the nonverbal communication. That's what I love about being a mascot. You know, I in the off season, I try to travel overseas and do work at orphanages around the world. And last year I got to go to India, and I was also in Africa. And what's amazing is that even though these kids in these orphanages have no idea who Casey Wolf is, they have no idea who the Kansas City Chiefs are, they have no idea what American football is. If you walk in a costume, you're friends just like that. And I can communicate with kids in any language. And just like these guys, we can communicate with kids in any language when we're in a costume. Now, once that costume comes off, there better be an interpreter somewhere close.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's what I love about the job is just being able to communicate with people regardless of whether they speak your language or not.
I think we've all interacted with Dennis Rodman in basketball, but and Barkley was great in basketball with the Mascots. I just lost my train of thought here.
Hold on, wait, I got something for you.
You're talking about Charles Barkley interacting well with Mascots.
Oh, something you were amazing at, Wes, is you were one of the only characters back in the time. Holy cow, that's old school right there.
Wow.
So that's Big Shot.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, we lost your mic there, Dave.
I'm sorry. That's the Fanatic Big Shot and Wes's character Duncan. And who are we in the picture with?
Oh, wait,
is that Thunder? Daryl Dawkins?
Chocolate Thunder.
Dawkins.
Daryl Dawkins broke a bunch of backboards in his day.
That's an awesome picture. That's great stuff right there.
You know, Wes, something that I was always impressed with you was how many referees, like Kersey.
Yeah, Jeff Kersey, Bob Delaney. Hey,
And-
when I proposed on the court in 1989, I invited 4 referees to my wedding.
That's great.
I think I had one show up, but I Bob Delaney was one. Certain guys he did a boxing routine. The next guy would ride a bike. So it's only, certain guys did certain things that they're used to. We did, Bill Lambier, he was well hated.
Yeah, that's true.
And we all know that, he just banged everybody, knocked them on the floor. So one time he came in and he had got his nose broken. So I wrapped the head in saran wrap and cut out the eyes. And I had a jersey made, just Pistons on the front and Lambier. So we spelled Lambier on the back, Lambeer. And then I had him a song by Madonna called Crybaby. So I came out with a big plastic diaper and a bottle and a pacifier and just threw a fit in front of the bench. And the cameras went directly to him, and you could read his lips, effing asshole. So I think within that next week, I think we all got letters in the NBA. You really couldn't make fun of players that much anymore. Wow. I know we've all done it.
You couldn't put their name on their jersey anymore. That was what it was.
Yeah.
I know it's the West rule.
The West rule. That's good. Yeah, the West rule.
The West rule. So that certain simple things was just like in The Last Dance, you saw Scottie Pippen, wanting a new contract, he wouldn't play. And then at one point, I think in the last segment or whatever, he throws a chair across the floor, just like Bobby Knight, sort of. So 2 months later, they were in. So you try to do things that are current. So I had the first annual Scottie Pippen chair throwing contest. So I lined up like 5 little kids. You go to the dollar store, get that chair. So he laughed the entire time. So it just goes, you don't go ask, obviously, if you can do this, because you're going to get a no most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's how you played on certain guys and, how they accepted you.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, well, prime time was amazing, and I never knew that he was really, going along with the routine, because I dressed up the dummy, something that wouldn't work very well today. I dressed up the dummy and I put on like a fedora, and I had, because he called it his Jew rag. He had his Jew rag, and so I had all kinds of, went to the hardware store and spray painted all kinds of jewelry. So I came out with the dummy, and I'm dancing with it and doing the same routine where I look like I'm trying to dance with it, but I accidentally step on it. I accidentally roll over on the 4-wheel on it, all accidentally. And he's sitting in the back of the dugout like this, and he's not making one movement. And I'm like, oh God, he's really pissed. I get done with the routine. Now they're in town for 3 days in a row, which is great for baseball. And I get a knock on my door the next day, and opens up, and it's Dion. He goes, hey, could you do that dummy thing again? And I go, yeah. And I go, why? He goes, I got 35 of my family members are in town, and they're all coming to the game because I told them that. Could you do that again? So do the same thing again. I come out, I'm doing the whole thing. He's in the back of the dugout like this. Never moved, never said anything at all. But that was just that he didn't want it to look like he was, proving it. Meanwhile, he's then he came down the next day, said, that was great. They all loved it. It was amazing. Can I get some pictures of the Fanatic?
Oh, that's good stuff. Prime time, baby. Prime time.
He was all, and then from that point forward, he was always, ready to do anything. And I've met him a couple of times out of costume since then, and it's like I'm his brother. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Good stuff.
Dirk?
I had a interaction with one of our players. It was kind of unique. It kind of delves off the Last Dance. He got quite a bit of guff from Michael Jordan that year that they won. Scott Burrell is his name. He was one kind of Michael's whipping boy, trying to get him to be tougher on the court. But he was a super nice guy, and we happened to both tear our Achilles at the same time, and going through on crutches 6 months of rehab together. He ended up being in my wedding and still a good friend now. But you don't usually get that intimate interaction with players and things like that. We know a lot of them, but we don't really usually get to call one of them a friend. But that was kind of a unique situation that really bonded us together, and it was made it fun for me.
Great story.
Dirk?
With Spurs, they're just amazing guys if you think about it. Gervin, Robinson, Duncan,
Avery Johnson,
Johnny Moore,
Trio Gumbo.
You could just name so many people that are just so great. So that there were a lot of Spurs that somehow they would get traded eventually, but they come back to our hometown as the opponents. So one of my favorite, we love the guys coming back in the arena, but at the same time, we wanted to have fun. So I taught my son, who was just 3, maybe 3.5, to stomp his foot and crush something. I just taught him that. So during the games, we'd have my son toddle out on the court, and I'd take his picture with David Robinson or with Greg Popovich, and you get these all moments. And then I'd take my son's hand over to the opposing bench, and we'd see an old Spur there. Like, let's take his picture. And everybody would just like, oh, there was hardly a dry eye in the building. But then it was a Polaroid camera. My son would just take the picture and look at it and then throw it on the court and just stomp on it.
Oh.
And it was our way of saying, welcome back, but not too much.
There you go. Yeah, such classy people in that Spurs organization. R.C. Buford, Coach Pop, the players throughout the years have always just been, just class people.
And I know you've worked with Manu.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
One story I think we've all will have experienced, except some of the guys that are still maybe in the sports world. But, we all try to decide when are you going to get out and what are you going to do next? And, I kind of went through that almost 20 years ago. And I used to dress at Don Shula's Steakhouse all the time. So the marketing guy goes, hey, I got 300 companies here. I'll help you out. So, I called a few, and then a lot of, we don't have the background to get a real job in the world. So this was like a jewelry company and Lucid Technology and Coca-Cola. So he goes, there's a guy with Cisco Foods, they provide all the restaurants and arena food and stuff like that. And he goes, he's a ticket holder. He goes to all the games, and I'll set you up with him. So I did that. I actually it wasn't even really an interview. I met him at IHOP, and we ordered the first couple questions. Tell us about yourself, and I'm like, man, this guy's at every game, So I said, what I did, where do you see yourself in 5 years, all this stuff. And the third question went, you know anything about computers? Never turned one on at the time. And I said, yeah, I know about him. He goes, do you know PowerPoint and Excel? I said, no, I went to high school with those guys. And I said, they still owe me money. So he stood up, shook my hand, and said, we'll keep you on file. So, I went back to this guy who led me to him. I'm like, yeah, he is really an ass to work with. And got a postcard 3 days later. We'll keep you on file. So
that's awesome.
I don't know if any of you guys got stories like that, but
I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So
John, he's at that point right now, man.
I don't know. You know what, though? Out of the whole thing is, if you think about it, now that we're done, and something Dave did when he got done is something that he pushed for forever was, and I don't even know if you know this, Coach, but there is actually a brick and mortar Mascot Hall of Fame. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You did?
No, I'm learning.
He's amazed.
Yeah.
So we actually now, because of what Dave did, with all these years and his hard work, was to create a Mascot Hall of Fame that. How many inductees right now, Dave? Do you remember?
Well, we're now at I think we're just at 30.
Where's it located? Where's it located?
It's in Whiting, Indiana, right on the waterfront of Lake Michigan. It's gorgeous. It's where John Rockefeller started Standard Oil. British Petroleum has its largest North American footprint there. So people think of Whiting as this refinery town, but it's a gorgeous little Main Street, and the Mascot Hall of Fame, it's right at the end of 109th Street there. And right to it's got a 3-story glass facade, and you can see Lake Michigan. It's gorgeous. And it's, unfortunately, due to COVID, it's closed. We're hoping to open July 4th, but the induction ceremony is this Sunday.
Nice.
So you go to the Mascot Hall of Fame Facebook page and can watch the induction ceremony. Blue from the Colts, Youppi, Boomer. Who am I missing, guys?
Oriole Bird.
The Oriole Bird are all going to be inducted and join. And we've got Mascot Hall of Famers right here on this call. It's just been wonderful. We teach STEAM principles of science, technology, math, and the arts, and it's Mascot University. So you got to go to Mascot University to be able to understand why mascots are so valuable, and you learn all the science and technology and a lot of the arts because it's textiles. And it's really a wonderful place, and these guys have been very supportive. Their organizations have done as much as they can to help us, and we're still growing. This would be our second full year, and the pandemic is certainly not good for a children's museum. So we're hoping to get out of it. So I appreciate John mentioning that, and I think it's we're all proud of it. It's been a labor of love for me, and now we're letting people enjoy it.
That is outstanding. I'm born and raised in Indiana, so I know about where you're at up there. So next time I go back to see my family, I got to get up there.
And you tell me when you're going, and we'll get the mayor to take you and your family on a tour. That's exactly what we do there.
Oh, what, Dave? That's big time right there, buddy. Big time.
I went last year.
I'd love to help you.
I went last year and had to pay they wouldn't even give me the senior rate. I had to pay the full admission.
Of course, that was the direction I gave him. When this Wes Lockhart shows up with a rubber cockroach, tell him he's got to pay double.
No, he paid for it with $3 bills with Hillary Clinton's picture on it. He still has a bunch of those.
I got a story I got to tell. So
go ahead, John.
We're up in Toronto, and it's I almost said his name. So it's the Toronto Raptors' first birthday party that he's ever had. And we're up in Toronto, and, it's me and Robert Bodwin, Wes Lockhart. Was it just us three, Wes, right?
Yeah, it wasn't many.
What?
I don't remember who the other. I'm sorry.
So we're all sitting there, and we go into the press room to eat, even though we weren't supposed to, but we went in there, and I'm just following Wes and those guys because I'm still kind of new. And I swear to you guys, it must have been 3 foot across, this huge salad bowl. And Wes put a rubber cockroach in the salad. And then he starts freaking out. And then that there's a cockroach. This person that's serving in the back blows her mind and is screaming, grabs the whole bowl, brings it in the back, and they dumped it all because of Wes rubber. And then that's also the same. In this story, oh my hell. So that same night, I go into the bathroom, and Wes had put a rubber poop on the toilet. And I remember I had to nudge it just to make sure it wasn't real. But I brought that poop home with me, and I had a game the next night. And I remember I put the rubber poop in our locker room. I think I told you this, Coach, right?
Yes, I know. Yeah, go ahead.
And but I remember, I put the rubber poop in the locker room. And it was a bad situation. I don't want to have to go into the whole story, but yeah, Jerry Sloan, God bless his soul, did not appreciate that.
You distracted the players. Come on, man.
Oh, man. It was ugly. I literally thought I was done right there. I was like, that was a great career, all 5 years of it.
Well, matter of fact, didn't the general manager come up to you and Mark McCowan, the trainers, like, John, get out of here. Make sure you get going.
No, I mean, so, because I put it in there at noon thinking, the trainers will find it and, it'll be done. Well, 6 o'clock comes around, game is just about to start, and Jerry walks in for the pregame meeting, and they're all supposed to be quiet and focused, and everybody's running around like little girls trying not to get touched by the rubber poop. And it was Darren Williams that was doing it. So Jerry walks in, sees this, and blows up and's like, calls in the training staff, the coaching staff, the players, everybody, and just chews their asses. And I felt so bad about that after I found out about it. But chews their butts. And then he asked where it came from. And immediately Gary Briggs, our trainer, goes, John Apsey. So then I'm on my way to go ice and get therapy after a game. Jerry's right in his press conference. And as I'm walking past, he points at me right in the middle of it, stops talking. I need to talk to you. And I was like, okay, Jerry, not thinking anything. And as I walked in the doors, I'm thinking it might have happened to some of you, but it was like I was the plague. People parted. Nobody said anything to me. And you know how you just stand there and I'm looking around, I'm like, something's wrong. There's definitely something wrong. And immediately Mark McCowan, our strength coach, walks over and he's like, John, just go home. Let it blow over. Give Jerry the weekend. He'll forget about it. And I'm like, what is going on? And he's grabbing me, dragging me. He's like, go home. And I'm like, what is going on? So he wouldn't tell me. He told me to go through the coach's door so I would miss Jerry. And I'm like, okay. And as I start walking, Kevin O'Connor, our general manager, gets a hold of me. And he's like, John, go home. Let it blow over. And I'm like, Kevin, what is going on? Tell me. And he's like, the team found the rubber poop. They're playing with it. And he goes, Jerry got mad. And he goes, and he yelled at him really hard. And he goes, I really need you to know, I need you to come in and apologize to the players and the coaching staff and the training staff. And I'm like, oh my God. I go, I'm done. I'm fired. So I start to leave. And as I start to walk out this door, I'm like right in the door frame. And I just stopped because I instantly saw Jerry walking down the hall to come past me. And as he's walking, he looked at me and looked straight ahead. And then you could just see him, that moment of, there he is, so he turns and he walks over at me with his big hand and he starts poking me in the chest and kind of yelling at me, for what's going on. And this was one of those moments, though, that as bad as it was, there was that kind of, really cool moment that came out of it. Because I remember Jerry was the most intimidating, and, whoever met Coach Sloan, I mean, he was a lot like Popovich. He ran the show, and he just expected you to come in, give 100%, no screwing around, just, that old school mentality. And I remember my legs felt like rubber as he was yelling at me. And I thought, he's going to kill me. I really did. I was like, one, I'm going to lose my job. Wait, I might die first, then he's going to lose. I'm going to lose my job. Oh. But all of a sudden, you could just see Jerry just go, and he dropped his shoulders and he sighed and he goes, John, he goes, I'm trying to run a team here. He goes, you can't be coming in doing that SHIT in here, blah, blah, blah. And he was just so cool. And then he just was like, listen, it's over. Go home. I'll see you on Monday. And, we had our next game. And I remember, it took me hours to, calm down. My anxiety level was so through the roof. But it was that special moment of, just seeing Jerry, become kind of that father figure. You know what I mean? Yeah. And what I loved about him, and I'm sure you guys have all had that, where it was over. And, I saw him on Monday and never brought it up. It was just done. And he was like, hey, John, how you doing? And I love that. So
yeah, great stuff, guys. This has been so fun. I am huge fans of the work that you do. I'm huge proponent of the stuff that you do in your communities. Definitely got to go see that Mascot Hall of Fame in honor and tribute to this show. If you guys send me bobbleheads or something, I'll put them right up here on my shelf. And that way they'll continue to be up there for following shows. And we'll continue to show love and appreciation for the outstanding stuff that you guys do in all your markets and all your franchises.
You're awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Hey, I can't thank you guys enough for taking the time to, share this time and share stories, and to have this fraternity together. It has got to be warming for you guys. And it's just been so entertaining for me.
Hey, Scott.
Great bunch of guys.
Yeah, Dave. Okay. I like it. I'll remember.
Scott, you got my address to send a check to?
Pardon me? I missed it.
You got my address to send the appearance fee?
Yeah. That'll come with the next stimulus check, I promise.
All right. Well, inspire. By the way, that was a $3 piece of poop that went a long way.
Yeah, you actually told me that. You're like, that cost me $3. Hey, wait. We have time for one more story.
Please.
Dave Raymond. Tell me the Jane Fonda story.
Oh no.
Yeah, come on.
Come on, Dave. Front and center, baby.
All right.
All
Right. So 93, we're that more than bellies, beards, and biceps, a great team. We unexpectedly made it to the World Series that year, and we beat Atlanta in the National League Championship Series. And Jane Fonda and Ted Turner came to those games, and they actually built temporary VIP stands right behind home plate to accommodate them and other VIPs, because before that, Veterans Stadium just had a big tunnel, a chute that really took up great real estate that would be today's new VIP seats. But so they built them, and the only access to a bathroom was through our offices down on the lower level that was restricted for anybody else. And that's where my office and changing room was. And the doorway to my room was right to see the main doorway. So anybody came in to use the bathroom, I could see them. So I start the story normally by saying that as a young man, Jane Fonda was really special for me. I had seen Barbarella, and and she was special. And in my heart, no one was gonna replace Jane Fonda as my special girl.
I know you had her workout videos. Come on.
I did. And we did a routine in front of them where the Fanatic had a full spandex outfit during those games. And Ted was nudging Jane like this, and they were laughing. They thought it was funny. So the third game, the last game, I'm there taking a break. All of a sudden I see the door open, and it's Jane Fonda walking to go to the bathroom. And she walks right past my room and goes that way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Jane Fonda. And I had the Fanatic legs on. I just had a t-shirt, wet t-shirt, and Fanatic legs were just big, fat, foam red legs like baseball stirrups. And I jumped up and said, this is my chance. I'm going to get to meet Jane Fonda. And I go around the corner. As I get there, I see she's waiting by the door because somebody else is in the bathroom. And she turns around and looks at me, and she kind of gives it like, oh, hi. And I went, hi, Jane, how are you? And she said, fine. And we just smiled, and she turned around because it's a little uncomfortable. She's waiting to go to the bathroom. So now the door opens, somebody comes out, and then she goes into the bathroom. And I'm thinking, well, I can't leave now because I made it look like I was going to the bathroom, and I just happened to meet Jane. Now she's going to think I was a creeper. And I'm like, all right. So I'm waiting. She gets done, and she doesn't even look me in the eye. She just walks right past me. And I just responsibly go into the bathroom and shut the door. And suffice to say that Jane should have lit a pack of matches because my whole feeling for Jane just went, oh.
Now that's a story. That's a story. Oh my goodness.
Way to end it with some potty humor.
Little poop potty.
Oh, great.
A wet t-shirt in front of John Ampsey, by the way. That goes for a whole different ball game there.
Guys, this has been so much fun. I thank you. Appreciate you being selfless. It's been so much fun for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed it just a third of as much as I've enjoyed it. We're going to get this link out. Let's share it with a lot of communities, and let's keep this mascot love going because I've really enjoyed this time, guys. It's been special.
Wait, I think Ken's got one more thing to say. No.
Well, you know what, though, is I really have to say is, after all these years, for as long as Wes has been out and, Tim and Mike and Dave, and what I think is amazing about the mascot world is that we all still stay in touch and that we all still care about each other. And I really think that's really rare in a lot of professions. So I love you all.
A lot of respect.
You guys.
That's special, you guys. Hey, get those bobbleheads to me or little figurines of yourself. I'm going to set them right up here so we can have them for future shows. I'd love it.
Thank you so
much. How about
much.
a piece of poop?
send me the poo. That's great. Guys, be blessed, stay safe, and sure appreciate your time. Have a great weekend, and we may have to come back for part 2 of this because I'm sure it's going to be demanded from our viewers.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. You guys, everybody take care. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, fellas. That's a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is the Coach Scott Fields with another edition of the Coach Scott Fields Show. That was our mascots, and that was so much fun. Everybody be safe and have a great weekend. We're going to come back with you with more guests next week. Thank you.